If reverse dieting isn't one of the most important parts of losing weight, then it has to be right up there, because what good is it losing the weight than putting it all back on? I hear it all the time. People tell me, Harley, I can lose the weight, but every time I lose it, it just seems to come back on. Now, the reason that this happens is because once you finish a hard cut where you lose a lot of fat and then you just stop what you were doing and go back to living normal life again, obviously you're going to put that weight back on. There is a process to maintaining your new low body fat percentage, and it's just as important as getting the weight off in the first place. So what reverse dieting actually is the period after you lose a lot of fat and what you do in terms of food to keep the fat off long term. As you would have heard me say in many of my videos, is that I personally like to either bulk or cut for a 16-week period, and 16 weeks is also how long I recommend my clients focus on one specific goal. The reason I like and recommend to do 16 weeks is because it is enough time to go through the correct process without doing anything too drastic that's going to cause long-term damage to your body. Okay, you can make a lot of progress in this time, and it gives enough time to fix all of your previous bad habits and replace them with good ones. So in this video, I'm going to teach you what to do after you finish a 16-week cut, which is a 16-week fat loss period, to make sure you can maintain your new physique and keep all the fat you have lost off for good. As I said earlier, what's the point of losing weight when you are just gonna put it all back on? Doesn't have to be like that. Again, you just need to go through the correct process. I'm just gonna quickly recap on how to lose fat effectively in the first place, even though I've already taught you that in the video, how to lose fat through dieting correctly. And I will then explain how to reverse diet properly so you're able to maintain the results you've achieved from your 16-week weight loss period. Before you make the commitment to losing fat, you need to come up with your original base diet, which I teach you how to do that in my video, Protein, Carbs and Fats. So we're gonna assume you are eating 7 meals a day and 5 if you're a female. When you start your original base diet, you have protein in all 7 meals, and you have carbs in all 7 meals and fats in 2. Your protein and your fats stay the same from start to finish, and your carbs are the only variable. In week 1 of the cut, you are on the absolute maximum amount of food your body can handle. You have the maximum amount of carbs in all 7 of your meals. You're not dropping any fat at this point. This is the maximum amount of food you'll be eating for the entire 16-week period. You need to let your body get used to a high amount of food in the start. If you start on minimal amount of food, then what foods would you have to cut from your diet to drop any fat, really? You need to get your body used to the highest amount of food it can handle, and you can eat that amount of food for, let's say, 2 weeks to start with, so you can allow your body to get used to that amount of food in that time. You need to let your body weight stabilize on that amount of food before you start the cutting process. The next week you will cut carbs from one of your meals, all right? And then we might see, you might drop a kilo, let's say, once you start that process. Then the next week you add in an hour's cardio, and now you're gonna be dropping, say, another kilo. Then the week after you cut carbs again, and now you're gonna drop another 500 grams. Then the week after that you add in another hour's cardio on top of your training program, and you're gonna drop another kilo, etc. So throughout the whole 16-week period, each week you are gradually cutting carbs and then increasing your cardio as your weight slowly decreases. If you cut your carb intake gradually, you'll continue to lose fat throughout the entire 16-week period, and you will not plateau. You'll maintain all your muscle mass and have a good amount of energy for the majority of the process. You do not want to cut your carbs too fast. As you can see, after about 10 weeks or so of increasing cardio and cutting carbs, your carb intake is going to get pretty low and your cardio is going to get pretty high. So the further you get into your cut, the better the results are going to be. After about 4 or 5 weeks of cutting, you will get so hooked on the results, and each week you are just going to get leaner and leaner by gradually cutting the carbs 1 meal at a time on a weekly to fortnightly basis. At about week 14, 15 and 16 of the cut, when you have nearly completed the weight loss process, the only carbs you will have in your diet are your post-workout carbs. At this point, you'll be training 6 days a week, plus a few extra hours cardio, and you're only eating carbs post-workout. Now let's say at week 16 you have lost 15 kilos and you're absolutely over the moon with how you look. You know, your abs are popping, veins are showing, and everything is good, but at the same time, you also need to be realistic, okay? living on 6 days training plus excessive amounts of cardio plus little to no carbs for an extended period of time is not an enjoyable or maintainable way to live life. You will burn out, you will crash, and if that happens, you'll put weight back on very fast. So once you've completed week 16 of your cut and you are happy with how much fat you have lost, this is where you start to do reverse dieting. So the week after week 16, which will be week 17, that's going to be week 1 of the reverse diet. All you do that week is keep your diet exactly the same, but you cut your cardio in half. So you were doing 6 hours of additional cardio in that week on top of your program. Now you're doing 3. If you were doing 4, now you're doing 2, etc. So all you do the week after you finish your cut is cut your cardio in half. The week after that, you will add a small amount of carbs back in, either your breakfast or your pre-workout meal. I personally prefer to add them into my breakfast as I find I have a lot more energy for the entire day, not just my workout. However, a lot of people, and this is probably just as effective, would say to put the carbs back into your pre-workout meal. Either way is fine, they'll both work. So whatever carbs you had cut previously, you put them back into that meal, 1 meal at a time. Then next week you add carbs back into another meal, and so on until you have carbs back in all 7 of your meals. Each week you add a small amount of carbs back into your diet at a rate your body can handle. And now this is where the scales come in. If you add carbs, let's say for 3 weeks in a row, and you put on over 1 kilo in that 3rd week, that's not that good. You know, that is not a realistic amount of muscle for you to put on in a week's period. So the week after that, don't increase your carbs again. You need to monitor it. You only increase your carbs at a rate where your body is putting on, say, max 300 to 800 grams a week. And any more than that, it's body fat. It's not realistic for you to, stay realistically at the same body fat percentage as you were, basically on no carbs at all in 15 to 16 week of your cut. So if you lost 15 kilos from that 16-week program and then you reverse diet for 6, 7 or 8 weeks and you only put on 2 kilos, but all the carbs are back in your diet, then that is a huge success. A 15 kilo loss for a 2 kilo gain, eating the same amount of food as when you started the original process of the cut, is incredible progress. Reverse dieting is a very effective process. The slower you add the carbs back into your diet, the better, because that is how you're going to stay leaner. Once you have finished the reverse diet process and you have carbs back in all 7 meals, this is when you will reassess and set some new goals, okay? If you want to get even leaner, you go through the reverse diet process after a cut, and once that is complete, you have the carbs back in all your meals. You can start that 16-week process again because you've gotten back, you've gotten your body used to those carbs again. If you don't get those carbs back into your diet, your body will eventually plateau because you have no more carbs to cut and you can't physically do any more cardio. So once you have maxed out on cutting all your carbs and you can't do any more cardio and you've pushed yourself to your limits, you don't just stop and go back to living normally. You don't just add back in all your carbs and do no cardio at all. You need to reverse diet out of the cut so your new body weight and body fat percentage is basically locked in. If you reverse diet out of the cut and you are happy with how lean you are, this is when you can either start cutting fat again or you can start focusing on building muscle. You can start a 16-week bulk, which I teach you in how to do in my video, How to Build Muscle Through Dieting Correctly. If you decide you want to start building muscle, I really want to place a huge emphasis on keeping yourself as lean as you can whilst you are growing, because you don't want to put that fat back on. When you're building muscle, you can't rush it. You need to go through the correct process. The reason why I love this sport and the process of improving my physique is because it just never ends. Once you complete the reverse diet, you're back at square one. Time to set a new goal. Time to keep getting better. It all comes down to how hard you are prepared to work to get the body of your dreams. Whether you want to lose more fat or whether you want to start building muscle. Once you've completed the reverse diet process, you'll be in the perfect position to reassess where you want to take your physique and start going down that direction. To me, and hopefully to you as well, there is no maintenance period. There's no, I just want to, look how I do now. I mean, why would you go to the gym to look exactly the same? Progression is one of the most important factors when it comes to being happy. If you are getting better and your life is improving in your training and your relationships are improving, your career, whatever areas of the life that's important to you, you are going to be very happy. I say to all my clients all the time, you need to raise your standards, aim high. In bodybuilding or in fitness, there is no perfect, okay? It's all down to the individual's opinion. There's no right or wrong. You can look however you want to look. Just because you think something looks good doesn't mean that I'm going to think something looks good, and vice versa. So really, all you need to do is figure out exactly how you want to look, what you believe is perfect in your eyes, and spend the rest of your life just, or time working towards getting that physique. It's really an amazing and very enjoyable journey, and I wish you guys and girls out there seriously all the best with it.